It's true. Figuring out boundaries, creating them, implementing them is tricky at best. But the biggest struggle for Christian women is not how to create a boundary. It's the question of, is Jesus even okay with me creating boundaries? Because when we create boundaries, it can feel incredibly unloving. And anything that feels unloving, we are automatically going to think, well, this can't be of God. And so then because of that, we just run back to chasing people, making life easy on them, even if it means bringing chaos into our own life, that we're going to cover for them because love covers everything. And we run ourselves into the ground trying to make everything work when that was never what we were called or supposed to do. And it makes life a lot harder on people when nobody has boundaries. And so I am hoping I want to share something that I just think is absolutely incredible that God showed me in the Bible this morning. And then I'm going to share with you one of my favorite ways to create and implement a boundary that I find is very helpful because, again, sometimes when we think of boundaries, we think we're just saying, nope, I'm not doing that. Nope, I don't care about you. Nope, you bug me and I want nothing to do with you. Like that's typically what we feel when we create boundaries. But I want to show you how creating the right boundaries at the right time can actually help you or help you flourish, help the people that you care about flourish, and help the relationship flourish. Like boundaries, just over time, as you figure them out and get better at them, they make everything better. But before we move on, I want to invite you to grab the burnout diagnostic in the description below this video. If you are feeling like you are running on empty and like everyone is just needing everything from you and you're starting to hit a wall and you're not sure how much longer you can go on doing life the way you have been, then that diagnostic is for you. It's a simple 12 questions that you can answer immediately. And if you are answering yes to 4 or more of them, then you know that you have a problem that you need to fix. Okay, so let's talk about Mark 10, which is the story of the rich young ruler, which you've probably heard about at some point, and there's different people who will talk about it from different angles, but I want to show how Jesus used a boundary. This was one of those things where this morning I had asked God to just show me boundaries in the Bible, and I flipped open my Bible, which is not necessarily the best way to read the Bible, but that's what I did. And I landed on Mark 10, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's right there. So in the story about the rich young ruler, there's a rich young ruler who comes to Jesus and says, "Teacher, how do I inherit eternal life?" And then Jesus says, well, the laws of Moses, the commandments, so keep them. And so then the rich young ruler says, well, I've kept all these from my youth. And then Jesus, this is the part that I want you to see, is that Jesus, he looked at him and he loved him. And then he said that, what did he say? I've got to remember. He said that one thing you still lack, I'm totally screwing this up. One thing you still lack, go and sell your possessions, give to the poor, and then come and follow me. And the rich young ruler paused and was sad, and then he walked away. And Jesus ran after him and said, no, never mind, that's okay. You can come follow me and you can keep your possession. No, I'm just kidding. He did not do that. Jesus let him walk away. He told him, you can follow me, but this is what it's going to cost you. And he told him the truth, and he let the young man decide, and the young man chose to keep his possessions. And I mean, who knows what choice he made later on, but in that moment, that's what he chose to do. And Jesus let him make that choice. And that is one of those things that is so hard for us to do. We feel so much pressure that we've got to make life easy for people, and that we've got to, if anyone makes a request of us, that we've got to like make it just open up the doors for them. And if we do, kind of like if there's anything that we can do, then we're supposed to do it. And we have to spend ourselves making life easy for other people rather than having a higher standard. Okay, just from the standpoint of being Christians, like you're choosing as a Christian, you're saying that I'm following Jesus, what he values, I now value. And in order to do that, like Jesus did that, where his concern was what his Father in heaven was about. And he had to live a life in line with that when there would have been a million other things that he could have done. And he had boundaries, like just to do that, to successfully, for him to be about his Father's business, his Father's will, he had to have boundaries and to know what he's about and to know what he's not about. And as Christians, we're saying yes to the same kind of life where we know what we're about and what we're not about. I think the thing that gets really muddied is that when we become Christians, we're more clear on saying no to the ways of the world and of culture and society that aren't in line with God's ways. But the struggle is then we become like, then we come into our church groups, our Bible study groups, our small groups, our family groups, and then we forget, or we aren't really trained on how to follow God within the midst of really good things. And so, okay, so I've got a hypothetical situation here that, so just to kind of bring this point home, because Jesus did this with like in a really major way, but it's still, we can use that same structure on making sure, and just like within, by ourselves. It's not that we always sometimes you need to tell someone when you are creating a boundary, you look at them in the eyes and you say, I love you, I care about you, but this is what I'm willing or not willing to do. But we can still just remind ourselves, even when we're creating boundaries, because again, when you are first starting to figure it out, it can feel so unloving. And yet I think that what is more unloving is to not have boundaries, because the lack of boundaries breeds resentment. Because when other people make a request of you and you just say yes, and if you fall into this, you're overextending yourself for whatever their whims are, that makes you annoyed at them. And you wish that they would change and they would figure their life out and stop needing you so much. But if you create boundaries and where you know your limits and you know what you can handle or what you cannot handle, and you kindly communicate that to people, that makes you a better person. It makes them a better person. And it is also like, instead of when we have no boundaries, we end up all doing the lowest common denominator. So like the things that really don't matter in the long run, but when you have boundaries, you're kind of saying, you know what, I'm absolutely here to help you and I care about you, but let's figure out what are the most important things that we want to do, and let's do those rather than just jumping on whatever ideas come up first. So, okay, so example time. Let's say you've got someone at church and they are known as the idea person. Like they have amazing ideas about what to do with in the nursery. They have ideas for the youth programs. They have ideas for like how to learn really good life lessons from the elderly. And so they're always coming up with ideas on how to really care and bring the people at church together. But over time, what you've seen is that they come up with ideas, but they do nothing to act on those ideas. So the action part always falls on you, or falls on a handful of people, where they just come up with an idea, they recruit the people they need, and then those people make it happen, which is fine if everybody involved says, if the agreement is you come up with the idea, I'll act on it. That's what we like to do. That's what works. And it's like everyone basically, they know what they're signing up for and they're really happy with it. Then it works. But it doesn't always work, especially if you're like, okay, why are you always coming up with ideas, but then you do nothing to make it happen? That creates resentment. And so a simple boundary here would be something like saying, it would be the yes, homework, all in. That is a working, I got to create a better name for it, but it's basically, you're saying yes, you're giving some homework, and then you're all in, or all in or all out, depending on what they do. So it would sound something like, let's say they come to you and they're like, oh, I've got another idea, right? And your history with this person is that you just like, they come up with an idea and then you're the one who makes it happen. But now you're kind of starting to get sick of how much it's always falling on you. And especially, when I'll just quickly add this part too, but especially when they come up with an idea, you act on it, and then 2 weeks later, you bring it up and they're like, oh, you know what? That wasn't even that big of a deal that happened. That kind of dynamic, resentment. It creates frustration because it's like, so why is it that you can just come up with ideas and then I have to do it? See, that shows more about you than it does about them. So this isn't just about changing other people, or if ever, it's more boundaries. It's just us saying, this is what I can and cannot handle. And I'm going to start to live within the natural boundaries and stop pushing myself to be more or do more than what I am capable of doing. So then let's say they come up with a really great idea and they've got some really cool kids craft to teach kids about Pentecost and how the Holy Spirit came and was given. And so they're like, okay, amazing idea, right? It would teach this great lesson to the kids. So they tell you about it. And in the past, what would happen is that they tell you, and then you are the one who does all the work and makes it all happen and teaches it and buys all the stuff. What a boundary would look like here, like either, because you might know that you need to just say no completely, in which case you learn how to say an absolute no. I'm not doing this anymore. Sorry, I love you, but no, I'm not doing this. But in this scenario, we're going to use the yes, homework, all-in framework. So this is where you would say, I love that idea. That's so great. And that would totally teach the kids. And the kids would love it too. And then you give them homework, okay? So not that you're telling them, and maybe homework isn't the right word, but let me know in the comments if you have a better word for this. But basically what you're going to do is that you're saying, okay, write it all out, text it to me so that I can kind of see on paper what you're thinking. And then when you buy the supplies, let me know, and then we'll get together and we can create the little kits for each of the kids for the craft. That would be something where you're putting the work on them because it's their idea, it's something that they want to make happen. And so you're giving them a little bit of work that they have to do, and then you let them go, right? Because either if it's important enough to them, they are going to act on it. And if they act on it and they do the stuff, then okay, this matters to them. I'm all in, right? Which is that last piece. Then you're all in. If they do not act on it, basically that's them saying, so you can just let it run its course. You give someone a little bit of homework to do, because for you're saying, if you're not willing, not you, but looking at the other person, if you're not willing to give your time to this, why would I give my time to that? So it's just creating a boundary so that you are now giving your time to the most important things rather than whatever idea gets thrown out there. And again, caveat, if it is an idea and you're like, you know what, even if you forget about this is important, I want to see this happen, then own it, and where you're the one making or doing the follow through and making it happen. But if you're dealing with someone like this, and this is something that you can apply to anything, where any request that comes your way, if it's something that you want to do, then if you know you need to say no, learn how to say no. But if you want to do it, but you don't want to own it, and you just want to make sure that you know that they're actually you just want to put a bit of a feeler. The homework is that you're putting out a feeler so that you know how important this is to the other person. And this is so eye-opening, because in a scenario like this, you would see how important, if for someone who is always coming up with ideas, they don't have all the time in the world to act on them. So you're going to see them filter out just by giving a little bit of homework. How important are their own ideas to them? Because they might not care to act on any of them. Maybe they just like coming up with ideas and they love, which is fine, but it's also important for the people around them to have their own boundaries and say, okay, so-and-so loves coming up with ideas. That does not mean we have to act on it. It's also going to reveal a lot about yourself. And okay, so this is where, so quick reminder to grab the burnout diagnostic in the description below, because this is the thing that will burn you out, where if you're always feeling like you need to rescue people and make things happen that maybe don't need to happen, that's what the burnout diagnostic helps you discover. But the whole yes, homework all in or all out, depending on, if they don't do the homework, then okay, well, if they're not willing to give their time, I'm not giving my time. But then you're also going to discover with yourself, are you the kind of person who gives homework, and even if they show you, yeah, this isn't a big deal to me, are you the kind of person that's going to still go and make it happen because you feel like it's your job to make it happen? So that's where you got to catch yourself, because you might be annoyed at other people for always putting all these things on you. But then the problem is that when you start to challenge that, and a boundary challenges that kindly, lovingly, but it still challenges it nonetheless, you're going to see if the issue actually on them or is it on you? Because you might find, even when people say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I thought about it more. That idea is not that important. Are you the kind of person that can't handle an idea coming up and letting it die, which then means that you would end up going and making it happen, and you're going to put it all together and you still end up frustrated, even if it's great ideas. Like, you've got to learn in this scenario, learning to let things die. You might have to let people solve their own problems, even if it's not as perfect as what you wanted it, or it would have been if you had handled it. There's sometimes it's not just like creating a boundary. It's that even or a boundary that tells other people that okay, this is what I can handle. It's that you have to relearn yourself what you can handle, and that sometimes means letting things that have been like the things where maybe you're teaching your kids how to make a meal, but then every time that you teach them and you're like, why aren't you learning, and why won't you take initiative? But every time that they try, maybe you're coming in and just doing it yourself because it needs to be done properly. There's something like, that's what you have to recognize within yourself, that if you say, okay, I'm going to let this other person figure out their own stuff and I'm figuring out my own stuff, you're going to just see, okay, what are you feeling? So be aware of what you're feeling. Do you feel like you need to go and rescue? Do you feel like you need to go and fix it? Are you uncomfortable? Because if you can learn how to, like, that's kind of your homework where you have to learn how to not just go and solve the problems and just let some things run their course, let some things die, let some people come up with an idea and let that idea fade away, so that you can do and they can do what is most important. This is one of those things that the benefits, I've only seen benefit come from this. It might be a little bit uncomfortable for the person who is used to you just always saying yes and helping them out. They come up with an idea and you just jump on it. For that person, it might be a little bit uncomfortable at first because they're not expecting that from you. But in the long run, anytime someone has used this framework, it has been eye-opening, but it's so beneficial. So I hope you put it to the test. And again, you're saying yes. If you need to say no, say no. But for this framework, you're saying yes, I love that. I'm totally there to help you, but then you give them a little bit of homework so that you're just getting them to, if it's their idea, it's their life, it's important to them, make them do that first step, heavy lifting. And if they do it, then be all in and help them and run with it. But if it's not important to them, then it shouldn't be important to you either. And you've got to let other people, like, instead of always rescuing and making other people's lives happen, let things fall through the cracks, because that also helps them figure out what is most important to them. And that's a huge gift to give to someone. All right, so lastly, remember to grab the burnout diagnostic in the description below this video. And again, if you are answering yes to 4 or more of the 12 questions, then you know that you have a problem that you need to solve. And lastly, remember to read your Bible, get lost in the story of God, and play your part, because you were made for so much more.